how do you handle rejection? So those moments when something didn't go the way you planned it, a launch didn't work, you put an offer out there and it just didn't sell, or you go into a sales call and you think you've got the perfect message for people and they don't buy or something like that. How do you personally handle rejection? Well, there was a time when I handled rejection very poorly. I saw every rejection as they don't love me personally. And since then, I have come to, with a lot of help from my wife and some others, I've come to the realization that they're not rejecting you. This is really key concept. They're not rejecting you. After all, how could they? They don't even know you. They're doing one of several things. Number one, choosing not to be part of your offer at this time. So they may be feeling really positive towards you and they want to spend money with you, right? But right at the moment, they may not have that money. Or right at the moment, they might be in another program and they're just too busy to work with you. Or a whole range of things that you have absolutely no control of. It's part of their life, not yours. They love you. They want to work with you. They're just choosing not to because it's not the right moment in their life. Here's another way of looking at it. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting their story of you. The story of you that is a combination of several things. First one is what you've told them about yourself, about your offer, about everything about it. Secondly, how you came across as you told it. We all know that two different people can walk into the room, both say hi, and one of them is a whole lot more sincere about that. They bounce across the room and come up and hug you, as opposed to the other person goes, hi. There's two different ways to do things. There's 2,000 different ways to do things. And so often the way we tell people about ourselves turns them off. Realize that the thing that turns so-and-so off may be exactly what makes somebody else really excited to work with you. They may feel, I'm too enthusiastic. I talk too fast. I get too excited about things. And so they want somebody else to come in much low key. Well, you know what? I can't do that. That's not who I am. This is who I am. They're not the right person for me if they're looking for somebody to come in and be smooth and low key and just talk in a monotone. That's not me. They're not going to be the right client for me. Now, those two things. So what you told them, how you told them to, and that can be all kinds of things like using video versus print versus emails versus everything else. So there's lots of ways that how you told them affects it. But then all of this gets combined with their story about themselves. So if they totally believe that you are the world's expert on blank, but they believe that they could never achieve blank themselves, they're going to reject you for the rest of their life. They may love you, but they're never going to invest their money because they don't believe that they can do it. So their story about themselves and also their circumstances right now. Going back to the first point, they may not have the money. They may be too busy. They may have a child getting married in a month and they just don't have time to work with you. So how do you deal with this? How do you affect their story about you? This right here is one of the key marketing questions, especially for those of us in the expert industry, especially for those of us in the expert industry who are selling online. So we're not in person with them. We're trying to do this virtually. So how do you affect their story about you? Well, number one, tell them more about you. And I don't mean just hey, share more personal details, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is give them more over time. So one of the things that's really interesting is that it oftentimes takes quite a bit of time for somebody to get to know you well enough to be able to give you especially a lot of money. And so they may love you in their first interactions with you, but they don't yet trust that you enough to be willing to give you additional money. And so giving them more, recognizing that just because they don't buy the first time, they might buy the second or the 3.5 time, the 5th time, or the 7th time that you give them an offer. Secondly, carefully control the story. Now, you can't totally control the story. You'll never be able to control whether they've got a child trying to climb up on their lap as they're trying to read your post on Instagram. You can't control a whole bunch of things, but one of the things you can control is you can make sure that you're being consistent in your messaging all across everything. That you're not putting up pictures that make you, if you're trying to come across as professional and wrapped up, don't necessarily show embarrassing pictures. And I know the social media people are choking as they hear this. We wanted you to show yourself as human. Well, there's a difference between showing yourself as human and showing yourself as foolish. There's also a difference between showing yourself as human and showing yourself as sexy. Or it's like, carefully consider what it is that your audience is going to want to know about you, and then design a program to give them that information, not to give them a whole bunch of information that's outside of that. You can give them personal information about you, but carefully choose whether that personal is something that you want to be part of the curation of the total message that you want to give about yourself. Number 3, help personalize your story to their life. So this is where the magic of the connection of I'm a lot like you, the hero's journey story, those kinds of things. So oftentimes this comes in a combination of connections as well as commonalities, as well as, and this is interesting because commonalities, we're a lot the same, but then here's the exact opposite of that. Your strengths match their weaknesses. So they say, oh, this person is really strong in all these things that I want to become. So it doesn't have to just be commonalities. It oftentimes is ruled by this because they want to be you. Fourth thing is to help communicate to them that you're a good person. I call it the good person factor. It helps to build trust. So a lot of this comes from giving information without asking for payment back. It comes from being reliable, consistently being there. It comes from showing up for them so that every time you come on, you give them something that's valuable to them. A whole set of things that show that you are trustworthy. And this also goes back to the thing I talked about before of don't show yourself in foolish situations. Don't show yourself in situations that are off brand. Number 5 is to rewrite their story about themselves. So if they believe that they could never do this, but you can show them some things that allow them to see themselves progressing towards that, you begin to rewrite the story about themselves. Anytime you can help them to recognize possibilities, vision, or see examples of other people like them, or maybe even worse off than they are in whatever skills or circumstances they see themselves as being deficient in, then you can help them to say, oh, I can potentially do that. So you're rewriting their story about themselves. So it's important for you to recognize in this process, not just you, me, everybody, because I said, this is not something that I haven't, I've learned this the hard way. When someone is, quote, rejecting your offer, recognize a couple of things. First one is most people simply don't buy on the first offer. If you get a bunch of people, you maybe pay advertising to get them on your list, and then you show an offer and it's like it didn't sell well, you go, this is a failure. I can never do this. I'm going to quit. Well, recognize that most people take 3 to 5 different offers of the same thing before they actually buy that thing from you. And then the second factor is to control and amplify your message so that the you that they think about when they think about you is the you who you want them to think about when they think about you, and the you that will encourage them to actually buy from you. So this is all psychology, both in your mind, in their mind, and how you go use marketing to shift that psychology so that they become positive. The story they have about you is a story that sells them on you. What's your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.